People did not initially see horses as riding animals, but as prey. Bones and cave paintings discovered across Europe and Asia show that horses were hunted by humans for thousands of years. Around 3,500 BC, however, the Botai culture, living in what is now northern Kazakhstan, took a step that would change human history. Archaeological evidence suggests that these people domesticated horses, using them not only for meat, but also for milk and transportation. Wear marks found on horse teeth, believed to have been caused by bits, are among the strongest pieces of evidence that humans had begun controlling and riding horses. The domestication of horses became one of the greatest technological and social revolutions in human history. People could now travel much greater distances in less time, carry heavier loads, and move efficiently across vast grasslands. This innovation laid the foundation for the expansion of trade routes, the acceleration of migrations, and the rise of some of history's greatest empires. The domestication of the horse did not only make transportation easier, it fundamentally transformed the way humans lived. Especially for the communities living across the vast steppes of Turkestan, horses made it possible to spread across much larger territories. Migration, hunting, protecting herds, and communication all became much faster and more effective. From the 2nd millennium BC onward, many cultures living on the steppes of present-day Turkestan developed the horse-based way of life even further. The horse was no longer just a means of transportation. It had also become a symbol of power, wealth, and social status. By mastering horseback archery and mounted warfare, the people of the steppe developed one of the most effective methods of warfare in history. This new way of life laid the foundation for the rise of great steppe empires such as the Scythians, Sarmatians, Huns, Gökturks, and Mongols in the centuries that followed. Thanks to the mobility provided by horses, these societies would migrate across continents, control major trade routes, and change the course of world history. The domestication of the horse also transformed the history of warfare. In the early periods, people fought on foot or relied on animals such as donkeys and oxen to carry supplies. But once the horse's speed and strength were discovered, a new era began on the battlefield. Around 2000 BC, light two-wheeled chariots developed across Eurasia quickly spread to Mesopotamia, Egypt, Anatolia, and the Near East. Pulled by 2 or 4 horses, these vehicles gave the armies of the time a level of mobility never seen before. Thanks to their speed, ability to launch surprise attacks, and effectiveness in ranged combat, chariots became one of the most powerful weapons of war for centuries. One of the states that used this technology most successfully was the Hittite Empire. The Hittites developed light yet durable chariots and placed great importance on horse breeding. In fact, the Kikuli text, which has survived to the present day, is considered one of the world's oldest horse training manuals, describing in detail how horses should be trained and prepared for war. The Battle of Kadesh, fought in 1274 BC, is known as one of the largest chariot battles in history. The armies of Hittite king Muwatalli II and Egyptian pharaoh Ramesses II clashed in a massive confrontation involving thousands of chariots. The battle demonstrated that horses had become far more than a means of transportation. They had become a strategic element that determined the military power of states. However, battlefields gradually began to change. Faster, more agile mounted warriors, capable of adapting to any terrain, were emerging. As the dominance of chariots came to an end, history's most feared cavalry armies were preparing to rise. On the stage were the Scythians, the ancestors of the Turks who perfected the art of fighting on horseback, and the mounted archers of Asia. Over time, chariots were replaced by cavalry fighting directly on horseback. The Scythians, pioneers of this transformation, laid the foundations of steppe warfare through the mounted archery tactics they developed. Later, this military tradition was further refined by the Huns and evolved into one of the most effective military systems in history. In the 4th century AD, the Huns advanced westward from the steppes of Central Asia, reshaping the course of military history. Thanks to their highly mobile cavalry units, they quickly reached Eastern Europe and forced many of the peoples they encountered to migrate westward. This process triggered the massive population movement known as the Migration Period, fundamentally transforming the political landscape of Europe. The greatest strength of the Hun army was its mounted archers. Every warrior learned to ride from childhood, could cover long distances in a short time, and was able to shoot arrows with remarkable accuracy while in motion. As a result, the Huns gained a significant advantage over heavily armored and slow-moving armies. In the 5th century, Attila became one of the most powerful leaders in Europe. His armies campaigned across a vast territory, stretching from the Balkans to Gaul, and from Italy to Central Europe. The Roman Empire was forced to remain on the defensive for many years against the speed and unexpected attacks of the Hun cavalry. Attila's name was remembered throughout Europe with both fear and respect for centuries. The mobile cavalry tactics developed by the Huns did not influence only their own era. This style of warfare was later refined even further by the Gökturks and the Mongols, reaching the pinnacle of the art of steppe warfare. At the beginning of the 13th century, Genghis Khan emerged from the steppes of Central Asia and transformed the tradition of mounted warfare into one of the most effective military systems in history. The foundation of the Mongol army's success was discipline, speed, and its unique bond with horses. Nearly every soldier traveled with several horses, allowing them to switch mounts during long campaigns and continue advancing for days without stopping. The Mongol cavalry wore light armor and possessed extraordinary mobility. They had mastered the art of shooting arrows from horseback. One of their most famous tactics was the feigned retreat. Pretending to withdraw, they lured the enemy into pursuit before suddenly turning back and attacking from all directions. This strategy enabled them to defeat armies far larger than their own. Horses played a vital role not only in warfare but also in the administration of the empire. Through the postal and communication network known as the YAM system, the Mongols were able to deliver messages across thousands of kilometers within days. Fresh horses were kept ready at stations established along the routes, allowing messengers to change mounts and continue their journeys without delay. This system is considered one of the fastest communication networks of its time. Within a short period, a vast empire stretching from China to Eastern Europe was established. For the first time in history, distant regions engaged in such extensive trade with one another. The Silk Road was revived, and goods, ideas, technologies, and even diseases began to spread across continents more rapidly. The Mongols' success was built not only on strategy and discipline, but also on the horses that made them unstoppable. Without horses, establishing and governing such a vast empire would have been almost impossible. In Europe, the horse came to represent something entirely different. Throughout the Middle Ages, it was not only a weapon of war, but also a symbol of nobility, power, and wealth. Owning a war horse was a privilege that, in most cases, only the nobility could afford. Europe's heavily armored knights entered battle mounted on powerful war horses bred specifically for combat. These horses were raised to carry heavy armor and trained for many years to charge with lances. A fully equipped knight charging into battle was devastating to the infantry of the time. Knights demonstrated their skills not only on the battlefield, but also in tournaments. Held across Europe, these competitions served both as military training and as prestigious events that enhanced the status of the nobility. The horse was the knight's most valuable companion and played a vital role not only in war, but also in everyday life. However, warfare gradually began to change. With the spread of gunpowder and firearms, the dominance of heavily armored knights slowly came to an end. Even so, the horse remained one of the most important elements of European armies for centuries. Around 10,000 years ago, the wild horses that once lived in North America became extinct, disappearing completely from the continent. As a result, when Europeans arrived in the Americas following Christopher Columbus, they brought not only their weapons but also horses, animals the continent had not seen for thousands of years. In the 16th century, Spanish explorers and conquistadors introduced horses to the Caribbean, Mexico, and South America. Many indigenous societies, including the Aztecs and the Incas, had never seen a horse before. During their first encounters, mounted soldiers gained a significant psychological advantage, and horses played an important role in the Spanish conquests. Over time, however, escaped and released horses spread across the vast plains of North America. Over the centuries, many Native American tribes domesticated these animals and made them central to their way of life. In particular, people such as the Comanche, Lakota, Cheyenne, and Crow developed extraordinary horsemanship skills, becoming some of the most formidable mounted warriors on the continent. By the 19th century, the horse had become one of the defining symbols of America's westward expansion. Cowboys, farmers, postal riders, and soldiers traveled thousands of kilometers on horseback. The movement of cattle herds, the establishment of new settlements, and the development of transportation networks were made possible largely by the mobility that horses provided. In this way, horses returned to the continent where they had disappeared thousands of years earlier, and within a short time became one of the most influential animals in shaping the history, culture, and identity of the Americas. For centuries, horses were the indispensable force behind transportation, trade, and warfare. But beginning in the late 18th century, they faced a new rival: machines. With the discovery of steam power, railways spread rapidly. Soon afterward, automobiles, trucks, and tractors became an integral part of everyday life. Humanity was gradually leaving behind the companion that had served it for thousands of years. Despite this, horses remained important in military service for a long time. During World War I, millions of horses served in cavalry units, pulled artillery batteries, and transported ammunition and supplies. However, as the war progressed and tanks, trucks, and other motorized vehicles became more widespread, cavalry units gradually disappeared from the battlefield. After World War II, motorized transportation had almost completely replaced horses. After carrying civilizations for nearly 5,000 years, horses were no longer a force on the battlefield, but a part of history. Today, horses are no longer the primary strength of armies, yet the bond they formed with humanity has never been broken. In many countries around the world, horses are still used in sports competitions, police units, military ceremonies, farms, and therapy programs. They also remain one of the most important symbols preserving the history, art, and traditions of countless cultures. Throughout human history, many animals have been domesticated, but none has had an impact as great as the horse. Thanks to horses, people reached distant lands, established trade routes, migrated across continents, and built the greatest empires in history. Today, engines may have taken over their role, but the foundations of modern civilization still echo with the sound of hoofbeats that rang across the steppes, deserts, mountains, and plains for thousands of years. The shared journey of humans and horses, which began around 5,500 years ago, is not only the story of an animal, it is also the story of human civilization itself. Because throughout history, it was not only people who changed the world, but also the horses that ran beside them.